Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook, located on traditional ancestral land of the Sitalkat people. All of us here in our sanctuary welcome all of you who are joining us online, wherever you may be. Let's give a wave to our online friends through the camera on your left. Hey. My name is Laura Lesh, and I am delighted to be your worship associate this morning on this sultry summer day with our service leaders, 5 members of one of our UUFSB sharing circles here: Deborah Gale, Shelly Psaris, Linda Kirk, Michelle Massimo, and Gina Talento. We have a wonderful service planned for you, so we're really happy you've joined us. Our Director of Religious Education, Deb Little, is on leave this month, but she will be back in August. Any children are welcome to come up and play on the mat over here. A special welcome to any of you who are here for the first time or just visiting. We're so glad to have you here, and we look forward to getting to know you. If you would mind just raising your hands for a moment, it will help us find you after the service to say hi. So if there's any visitors or newcomers, just give a... Our services vary from week to week in content and format, especially during the summer when members of our congregation lead the services. So I would encourage you to come back several times to get a true feeling of who we are as a community of faith. We hope you will plan to stay on when our worship is over for coffee and conversation. For those who are with us online, if you sign off after the service and return to our website, you will find the link for joining our small group chats. Whether here or online, you'll find lots of friendly folks who can answer any questions you may have. I have one quick announcement for you, which I only became aware of after the news feed went out this week and the weekly announcements had already been printed. This weekend, the annual Corn Festival powwow of the Sitalkat Nation is going on, and the public is invited to attend, celebrate with them, and enjoy their traditions. It runs today from noon to 6 p.m. at 134 Main Street in Sitalkat. This is a great chance for us to get to know our neighbors and show them our support, and there will be activities for the whole family. If anyone wants to join me going over there later this afternoon, let me know at coffee hour. And one last thing. I'm sure you're all as distressed as I am about the shooting that took place yesterday at the political rally in Western Pennsylvania. May our thoughts and prayers and candles for all who were hurt or killed help us all to heal and go forward into the coming election season with the courage of our convictions, coming always from a place of love. So please put the sound of your phones on worship mode. Allow your minds to relax and your hearts to open as we begin our worship service with the sounding of the bell.
The night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light that you see. Well, I won't be afraid, no, I won't be afraid, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me whoa, stand by me, stand by me, stand by me. If the sky that you look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountains would crumble into the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me, whoa, stand by me. Feel free to sing. Stand by me, stand by me. Darling, stand by me, whoa, stand by me, stand by me, stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, you can stand by me, whoa, stand by me, stand by me, stand by me.
Circle member Gina Talento will light our chalice this morning as I read these words from Brené Brown. Spirituality is recognizing and celebrating that we are all inextricably connected to each other by a power greater than all of us, and that our connection to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. Practicing spirituality brings a sense of perspective, meaning, and purpose to our lives.
Sharing Circles has been a special gift in my life for over 14 years, and I've had the privilege of serving as one of the group facilitators for about 8 of those years. During our monthly Zoom meetings, we explore a vast variety of subjects in our sessions. Topics can be as light and fluffy as my favorite childhood book or life's embarrassing moments. Some are deep and thought-provoking, like my purpose, what gives meaning to my life. Occasionally, a topic can be a bit difficult. Topics like family relationships or mental health and resilience may open old wounds or bring up unpleasant memories. And some, like death, dying, and whatever comes next, well, those topics depend entirely on your point of view. Together, members of each group create circles of trust through honest, open sharing. We covenant to share our values and beliefs, deepen our commitments and connection to one another, and respect the confidentiality of what is said in the group. There is an extraordinary level of trust among the members of each group that allows us to be especially open and vulnerable, providing a safe space where we feel comfortable sharing some of our most private thoughts and experience, sometimes putting things into words that we've never said aloud. We all agree that our sharing circle experience has itself become a part of our spiritual stories. Let's all rise now in body and spirit and join in singing one of our favorite hymns, number 1 in your gray hymnal, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door.
Good morning. I'm going to read, as you can see in the order of service, The Fall of Freddie the Leaf. Linda Volkers, our former Director of Religious Education, read it several times many years ago. The book was published in 1982. Our second child was born in 1982. So shortly after hearing this book being read, I purchased my own copy, read it to our sons, and later read it to our grandchildren. Spring had passed, so had summer. Freddie the Leaf had grown large. His midsection was wide and strong, and his 5 extensions were firm and pointed. He had first appeared in spring as a small sprout on a rather large branch near the top of a tall tree. Freddie was surrounded by hundreds of other leaves just like himself, or so it seemed. Soon he discovered that no 2 leaves were alike, even though they were on the same tree. Alfred was the leaf next to him. Ben was the leaf on his right side, and Claire was the lovely leaf overhead. They had all grown up together. They had learned to dance in the spring breezes, bask lazily in the summer sun, and wash off in the cooling rains. But it was Daniel who was Freddie's best friend. He was the largest leaf on the limb and seemed to have been there before anyone else. It appeared to Freddie that Daniel was also the wisest among them. It was Daniel who told them that they were part of a tree. It was Daniel who explained that they were growing in a public park. It was Daniel who told them that the tree had strong roots which were hidden in the ground below. He explained about the birds who came to sit on their branch and sing morning songs. He explained about the sun, the moon, the stars, and the seasons. Freddie loved being a leaf. He loved his branch, his light leafy friends, his place high in the sky, the wind that jostled him about, the sun rays that warmed him, the moon that covered him with soft white shadows. Summer had been especially nice. The long hot days felt good, and the warm nights were peaceful and dreamy. There were many people in the park that summer. They often came and sat under Freddie's tree. Daniel told him that giving shade was part of his purpose. What's a purpose? Freddie had asked. A reason for being, Daniel had answered. To make things more pleasant for others is a reason for being. To make shade for old people who come to escape the heat of their homes is a reason for being. To provide a cool place for children to come and play. To fan with our leaves the picnickers who come to eat on checkered tablecloths. These are all reasons for being. Freddie especially liked the old people. They sat so quietly on the cool grass and hardly ever moved. They talked in whispers of times past. The children were fun, too, even though they sometimes tore holes in the bark of the tree or carved their names into it. Still, it was fun to watch them move so fast and to laugh so much. But Freddie's summer soon passed. It vanished on an October night. He had never felt it so cold. All the leaves shivered with the cold. They were coated with a thin layer of white, which quickly melted and left them dew-drenched and sparkling in the morning sun. Again, it was Daniel who explained that they had experienced their first frost, the sign that it was fall, and that winter would come soon. Almost at once, the whole tree, in fact, the whole park, was transformed into a blaze of color. There was hardly a green leaf left. Alfred had turned a deep yellow. Ben had become a bright orange. Claire had become a blazing red. Daniel a deep purple. And Freddie was red and gold and blue. How beautiful they all looked. Freddie and his friends had made their tree a rainbow. Why did we turn different colors, Freddie asked, when we are on the same tree? Each of us is different. We have had different experiences. We have faced the sun differently. Why should we not have different colors? Daniel said matter-of-factly. Daniel told Freddie that this wonderful season was called fall. One day, a very strange thing happened. The same breezes that in the past had made them dance began to push and pull at their stems, almost as if they were angry. This caused some of the leaves to be torn from their branches and swept up in the wind, tossed about and dropped softly to the ground. All the leaves became frightened. "What's happening?" they asked each other in whispers. "It's what happens in fall," Daniel told them. "It's the time for leaves to change their home. Some people call it to die." "Will we all die?" Freddie asked. "Yes," Daniel answered. "Everything dies, no matter how big or small, how weak or strong. We first do our job. We experience the sun and the moon, the wind and the rain. We learn to dance and to laugh, then we die." "I won't die," said Freddie with determination. "Will you, Daniel?" "Yes," answered Daniel, "when it's my time." "When is that?" asked Freddie. "No one knows for sure," Daniel responded. Freddie noticed that the other leaves continued to fall. He thought it must be their time. He saw that some of the leaves lashed back at the wind before they fell. Others simply let go and dropped quietly. Soon the tree was almost bare. "I'm afraid to die," Freddie told Daniel. "I don't know what's down there." "We all fear what we don't know, Freddie. It's natural," Daniel reassured him. "Yet you were not afraid when spring became summer. You were not afraid when summer became fall. They were natural changes. Why should you be afraid of the season of death?" "Does the tree die too?" Freddie asked. "Someday, but there is something stronger than the tree. It is life. That lasts forever, and we are all a part of life." "Where will we go when we die?" "No one knows for sure. That's the great mystery. Will we return in the spring? We may not, but life will." "Then what has been the reason for all this?" Freddie continued to question. "Why were we here at all if we only have to fall and die?" Daniel answered in his matter-of-fact way. "It's been about the sun and the moon. It's been about happy times together. It's been about the shade and the old people and the children. It's been about colors in the fall. It's been about seasons. Isn't that enough?" That afternoon, in the golden light of dusk, Daniel let go. He fell effortlessly. He seemed to smile peacefully as he fell. "Goodbye for now, Freddie," he said. The first snow fell the following morning. It was soft, white, and gentle, but it was bitter cold. There was hardly any sun that day, and the day was very short. Freddie found himself losing his color, becoming brittle. It was constantly cold, and the snow weighed heavily upon him. At dawn, the wind came that took Freddie from his branch. It didn't hurt at all. He felt himself float quietly, gently, and softly downward. As he fell, he saw the whole tree for the first time. How strong and firm it was. He was sure that it would live for a long time, and he knew that he had been a part of its life, and it made him proud. Freddie landed on a clump of snow. It somehow felt soft and even warm. In this new position, he was more comfortable than he had ever been. He closed his eyes and fell asleep. He did not know that spring would follow winter and that the snow would melt into water. He did not know that what appeared to be his useless, dried self would join with the water and serve to make the tree stronger. Most of all, he did not know that there, asleep in the tree and the ground, were already plans for new leaves in the spring. And the last page has a picture of a blue sky and a barren tree, and it says, "The beginning."
Thank you, Shelley. It's a lot to chew on, right? For all ages. As we enter our time of meditation together, please know that you may come forward and light a candle of joy or sorrow, as I have already done, at any time during our service. I will start us off in meditation with some words by the Sufi poet Rumi. This will be followed by a time of silence for reflection, relaxation, and renewal. Then, in the spirit of big questions, Bethany will bring us out of our silence with hymn number 1003 in your teal hymnal, "Where Do We Come From?" So you might want to open to that hymn now. Bethany will play all 4 lines through. Then we will sing it together in unison, right through all 4 lines. Then you can each choose your favorite line and sing it over 4 times. And we can allow our voices to blend all 4 lines together. I invite you to find a comfortable position. Breathe in the peace of this, our spiritual home, and breathe out the love for all those surrounding you as we begin. Rumi tells us, Christian, Jew, Muslim, shaman, Zoroastrian, stone, ground, mountain, river. Each has a secret way of being with the mystery, unique and not to be judged.
Please join me in a responsive reading this morning entitled A Sense of the Eternal, written by Gandhar Sivaswamy. The words are printed in your order of service. I will start with the words in regular print. Please respond with the words in bold print. Online, your responses are printed in yellow. Let the child feel secure, sucking in its mother's breast. Let the poet walk in, watching the beauty of this world. Let the musician sing aloud, absorbed in divine worship. Let the scientist analyze life, for knowing the truth of it all. Perhaps they all feel the same thing, a sense of the emotional, a sense of the eternal and spiritual in the inevitable progression of life.
Author Stephen Covey wrote, "The problem with communication today is that we do not listen to understand, we listen to reply." The thing I am most grateful for, the most wonderful thing to me about sharing circles, is the unique practice of listening attentively, fully and deeply, simply receiving and accepting what is said without judgment, advice, interruption, or offering a solution. What a gift it is to be heard, really heard, not just listened to, not just permitted to finish a thought or complete a sentence. Being heard in that way gives me a feeling of unconditional love and acceptance. And listening in that way, hearing others so completely, it's like getting a VIP pass to the deepest, most intimate parts of their very being. There is a particular format to our monthly sessions that includes 4 or 5 questions for reflection. Usually the members take turns answering each of those questions. Today's service is a small sampling from one of our recent sessions called Our Religious and Spiritual Journeys. Ordinarily, questions are presented one at a time, allowing all members of the group to share their thoughts and experiences, with chapters of each person's story emerging gradually as the session unfolds. Today, in the interest of time, we will each respond to a different one of those 4 questions, giving you a partial glimpse to each person's journey. I'm the facilitator of the sharing group gathered here this morning. I will read the questions, and I will be responding to the first question myself. What religious or spiritual practices, if any, did you experience growing up? Who or what influenced your beliefs? How did you feel about participating? Which of these beliefs or practices have you carried into your adult life? Growing up in Brooklyn, I was raised in the Roman Catholic faith and attended Catholic schools from kindergarten through high school. We were required to attend 9 o'clock Mass every Sunday, and from 5th grade on, we had to attend 8 o'clock Mass every weekday morning before school. That seems extreme, but there were over 200 children living on my block alone, and we all went to Catholic school and to Mass. We had no idea there was any other way. During those baby boomer years, there were more than 60 students in each class. The nuns I was fortunate to have as teachers were strict but rarely stern. My experience was that they were always encouraging, kind, and loving. Getting a gentle, reassuring hug nestled in yards and yards of soft, flowing black fabric with huge wing-like sleeves that made up their habits always felt so comforting. In the younger grades, the sisters read us Bible stories and parables instead of typical storybooks. I remember being moved hearing how Jesus was always kind to everyone, and being especially impressed that he made a point of telling people it was important to always take time to listen to children. Sometimes I was so overwhelmed with emotions hearing these beautiful stories that I was moved to tears, and Sister Mary Sylvia would pull out a tissue from deep inside one of those gigantic sleeves. Eventually, it was decided that parishioners would be better able to relate to the nuns if they moved from the convents and lived within the community. I grew up in a two-family house, and for a few years while I was in high school, 3 of the sisters from our parish lived upstairs. We had the rare opportunity of getting to know them as real people. They rode bicycles, sipped margaritas at my parents' parties, even hung their sisterly unmentionables out to dry on the back clothesline. And it was a special privilege for our little family to attend Mass upstairs in their living room with the 3 of them and their friend who was a newly ordained young priest. It was a great experience getting to know them personally. Well, at least for my parents and me. My sister Cheryl was not quite as enthusiastic about the arrangement. You see, Sister Elizabeth was the principal at her school, and Sister Margaret was her teacher in the 7th grade and again in the 8th grade. Only in recent years did I realize that mine was a unique and very forward-thinking congregation. Our pastor was apparently quite innovative in his thinking. When I was in 7th grade, he introduced a wonderful monthly program that was well received by many adults and warmly embraced by the youth of the congregation, the philosophy of which was the world could be at peace and the love that Jesus professed could be possible if we took the time to learn firsthand about people of different nationalities, ethnicities, and faiths. Each month, he invited a person or group of people who would talk about their backgrounds, beliefs, and hopes to achieve harmony in the world. Looking back now, I could say it was very UU. My relationship with the church began to change when the priest in my sister's church, where I went to Mass with my children every week, learned I was remarried after years of being divorced. He refused to allow me to receive communion and would not permit me to be the sponsor for my nephew when he made his confirmation because, as he put it, being in a relationship with another man when my marriage was never annulled meant I was an adulterer, and as such, I was excommunicated from the church. However, for the reasonably low price of just $5,000, I could have that annulment and all would be right with the world. Devastated, I spoke with the priest in my own parish who assured me that if I felt at peace with God, he would never refuse to allow me to participate. I was content with this new relationship for over 20 years, but when the scandals of widespread pedophilia among members of the clergy were revealed, I felt betrayed and lost respect for the institution I had loved all my life. I knew the damage was irreparable and I had to leave. Being a huge fan of all things Victorian, I was drawn to the fellowship's 1890s fairs when driving home from the mall one weekend. I had never heard of Unitarian Universalism. I asked several questions, I read the literature, I searched the web, I attended a service, and I knew this is where I belonged. Michelle will share in response to our second question. How have your religious or spiritual beliefs changed as you've gotten older? When and how did that happen? What predicated this change? What was the experience like for you?
I grew up in the South Bronx during the early 60s. My mother was a free-thinking, no-nonsense woman unfettered by the provincial attitudes of her Roman Catholic family, married to my father, who was a previously divorced, hence excommunicated Catholic. My father's early life was very influenced by my Uncle Artie's Jewish upbringing. My younger sister and I reaped the benefits of a Jewish Catholic childhood. And as I have always joked, my childhood was just guilt with different holidays. I attended Catholic school where the nuns, whom I believe were part of the Order of the Sisters of the Marquis de Sade, ran a very disciplined set of classrooms with about 100 students in each room. As this was pre-Vatican II, Catholicism had much shame and corporal punishment, and it was meted out quite liberally. I can recall sitting in a class after passing a surreptitious note to my best friend, Iris Garcia, only to have the note ripped from my hand and intercepted by Sister Thomas Bartholomew, who smacked me upside the head with a ruler as she yelled through clenched teeth, If you disobey me, you disobey him. At this, she thrust her ruler in the direction of the emaciated figure of the crucified Christ above the blackboard at the front of the room. My penance was to write the rosary 100 times and go to confession. At least that was my takeaway from my early years. My parents ensured my salvation by seeing to it that I attended Catholic school just long enough to make my first Holy Communion and my confirmation. After that, we rarely attended church except on holy days of obligation. During this time, our family's spiritual life was also shaped by my father's professional life as a part-time stand-up comedian singer. He performed in the Jewish Alps, as the Catskills were known in those days, with my uncle as half of the comedy and singing team, Masters and Laurent. Our home was filled with joyful Yiddish and vaudevillian humor and song. The Catholic part of my childhood was filled with fears and anxiety about the devil, who I knew was hiding just under my bed. Consequently, I slept with my head under the covers until I was 13 years old, and a wrathful old man in the sky, judging every impure and unclean thing and thought that I had. After confirmation, I made a beeline away from all things Catholic. In my teen years, our family moved, and I took my irreligious self to the Stony Brook University campus of the 70s. I immersed myself in protests and other New Age beliefs. I tried Buddhism, Baha'i, Transcendentalism, yoga, etc. But as SUSB was known as the Berkeley of the East, drugs, sex, and rock and roll won out. My searching led me on a self-destructive path filled with bad choices and an out-of-control life. I've moved into an off-campus student house, and things went from bad to worse. In the fall of 1977, Campus Crusades for Christ was very active on Stony Brook campus. For the first time in my life, I heard the message of an all-loving, all-forgiving Jesus God, whom I could come to just as I was. I had doubts that this Jesus they spoke of could accept this drugged-out, promiscuous failure of a mess. Then one night, after a drug overdose that landed me in the psych ward of the local hospital, I accepted Jesus and embraced knowing I was forgiven and free. For many years, life within the born-again church was wonderful, yet there were always asterisks, as I call them. For instance, when I heard preached that being gay was a sin, there would be an asterisk for me because I wholeheartedly knew that to be false. When the disparity of the roles between men and women within the kingdom was spoken of, there was another asterisk there too. And when my veganism, as an inherent core belief in my life, was met with, "But man has been given dominion over the animals," response, there was that asterisk again. But I found myself really pulling away from the born-again evangelical life belief system when in 2015, people with whom I'd fellowshipped began embracing wholly abhorrent ideas, Islamophobia, anti-immigration beliefs, and embracing of white nationalist viewpoints, and acceptance of a political figure who spewed misogynistic, hate-filled rhetoric. I left that world. But there was a void. I knew there was an inner longing for fellowship and spiritual growth. And my daughter reminded me of UUFSB, where for some time I had occasionally attended the Labyrinth Walk or the Passover Seders, hosted by our lovely Shelly here. That Sunday I walked in, Andy Culver was leading a service, and he spoke about the interconnectedness of the forests of the Pacific Northwest and the animals and the plants of our earth. I was captured by those words, opening my eyes to UU beliefs, and the welcoming words of 3 or 4 other vegans during the coffee hour didn't hurt. At that first service, the WA said, "If you are new to our fellowship, come to 2 or 3 more services and see if we're a fit. All I can say is, UUFSB, you had me at hello.
The next person sharing will be Linda, and here's our third question. Do you currently feel you have arrived at your religious and spiritual beliefs, or are you still searching? What circumstances or discoveries led you to feel your search had ended, if it did? If your journey is ongoing, what are you seeking? Please describe your feelings and experiences about going through this process.
Okay. Have I arrived at my religious and spiritual beliefs? No. And I hope this doesn't spoil the plot of the story. For years, I felt that I should know, I should have an opinion about what I believe. I remember going, as a kid, looking up at the sky and saying, wait a minute, how can there be a heaven up there? Because there's sky up there. If there was heaven up there, wouldn't people be falling from the sky? This didn't make sense to me. So I grew up in a small country Methodist church, and of course in the children's choir, and it was comfortable, but I did not feel it. We had a nice minister, all was well, but it just didn't feel right. It was not in my bones. In high school, in my senior year, I talked to another kid who was a member of our church, East Village Methodist Church, and I said to Ricky, I just don't believe about a God or a Jesus, the resurrection, all of that. And he said to me, oh, then you're Jewish. I said, no. I didn't know what I believed, but I knew what I didn't believe. So, and then a year after graduating high school, I had the opportunity to go to my great aunt Edla's high, in quotes, Baptist church, where the minister said that this was the only true religion. I said, wait a minute, how can that be? That can't be, because there's people all over the world in all different religions. So then at some point I learned about UU, and I thought, this sounds good. I did go to some Quaker meetings, but again, first of all, sitting in silence was way too anxiety-producing for my 18-year-old, 19-year-old self. But I discovered UU, and I think this is a faith that goes by, you know, what you do, how you believe, you know, how you act rather, and they welcomed questions. The one that I went to when I lived in Hartford was probably from previously another religion. It had stained glass windows, and the minister talked about his recent trip to Europe, and I had not gone further than, well, Massachusetts and New York City. So this felt very alienating to me. But nonetheless, it's okay. So I kept it in the back of my mind. Okay, so as years went by, some more, and my husband and I went to see the movie Agnes of God. And it was afterward, I walked into the women's room, and I had something of an epiphany that I don't know the answers. I'll probably never know the answers, and that's just going to have to be okay. You know, I could not bring myself to act or say that I believed in something that I didn't. So that was it. I just had to accept that. Then as years went by, I experienced some really significant losses in my life. And I began to wonder what was after life as we knew it. So I was always pretty content to feel like I don't want an afterlife. One life is plenty, thank you very much. And getting through it, although my life was good, I did not really want to have to go through another one. Well, as I said, after experiencing some significant losses, I began to wonder, is there an afterlife? Would I get to see these cherished people again? How would they receive me? What would it be like? Are we just souls floating or energy floating? And I just didn't know. And I've had to just tell myself, it's going to be a mystery, and not knowing we'll just have to do.
Our fourth and final question is, what do you believe happens after death? Shelly will share her response.
When I was growing up as an Orthodox Jew, we learned that there was a God and a heaven, and that God looked down and rewarded those who were worthy a place in heaven upon death. We were also taught that there was no hell in the hereafter, just on earth. So I did worry as a child about being a good girl and pleasing God. I left Judaism behind early in life, around 17 years of age, when I left home for nursing school. I had attended yeshiva until junior high. Yeshivas are private Hebrew schools. The ultra-Orthodox ones separate the boys from the girls. The one I attended had boys and girls together. I didn't enjoy attending yeshiva, and I didn't like the severe restrictions placed on us as Orthodox Jews. I practiced nothing until I found Unitarian Universalism in 1971, when my fiancé and I were introduced to UUism and married by a UU minister from Garden City. The beauty of this religion is acceptance of one another, whether or not you believe in God and an afterlife, as expressed in our fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. I believe that when we die, there is no hereafter. I don't believe that the dead look down from a heaven and watch those they left behind go on with their lives without us. I recall being told that my loved ones who passed were in a better place. Was that heaven? Well, that did not comfort me, since I did not believe in a hereafter. However, some believe that our spirits live on. Thomas Campbell, a Scottish poet from the 1700s, said, "To live in the hearts we leave behind is not to die." I love that. It's very spiritual and has brought me comfort. After our beloved granddaughter Jasmine passed away in 2017 after battling cancer, someone sent me a lovely quilted wall hanging. It shows a dark sky with stars and a full moon. Attached to this gift was a card that read, "Perhaps they are not the stars, but rather openings in heaven where the love of our loved ones shines down to let us know they are with us." So, even though I don't believe Jasmine is looking down on us from heaven, my comfort comes from the sentiment behind that message. Every now and then, when I feel the need to connect to Jasmine or my mother, who died at the young age of 53, I tearfully call out to them, knowing that I don't believe they hear me. However, it's a way of my releasing pent-up pain over their passing. And since I have no proof that there is no hereafter, who knows? Maybe they do hear me. Maybe they know how much I miss them. Maybe not. But it doesn't matter. Although I don't believe in an afterlife or heaven literally, I think there is one spiritually. We know the saying, heaven on earth. Well, all the love that lives on in our hearts passes between us and our loved ones, and hopefully gets passed on to future generations of our loved ones. As my mother passed her love on to me, she lives on in my heart, as does Jasmine. And that could be heaven on earth.
Our sharing circles usually end with a brief discussion of our likes and wishes about the session, followed by closing words and extinguishing our chalice. Information about sharing circles is available on the fellowship website under Connections and the brochures that were placed on some of the seats this morning. We invite anyone interested in joining a group to contact Ellen Bartley, whose email address may be found on both.
Thank you to all of you for sharing with all of us your sharing circle and your own answers to these big questions. I hope this will inspire everyone to reflect on these questions and your own spiritual stories. It is our communal spiritual practice of generosity to share our weekly offering with an organization doing the work of justice in the world. Last month, we asked the children and youth in our religious education program to help us choose a worthy organization for the month of July, and their choice was Community Solidarity. Community Solidarity is a grassroots organization that collects and shares produce and vegetarian groceries with thousands of people across Long Island at their food share sites. This organization has no warehouses, no tractor trailers, and no employees. Their volunteers distribute the millions of pounds of fresh produce they collect, providing for the nutritional needs of over 6,500 people every week at locations throughout Long Island. Community Solidarity believes that food is a human right, and they live into that vision at their food shares. Some of their volunteers are friends and members and youth of this congregation. If you are interested in learning more, I would love to talk to you about their work. Please give with generosity to this worthwhile organization. For those online, the link to donate is in the chat.
When I was a boy, each week, Sunday we would go to church, pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread. Everyone would kneel and bow. Now the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two. Jesus made the water wine, and I remember feeling sad. Miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, barely wet my fingertips. Now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. Used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything, everything, everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face, say it's not a testament, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come, say it's not a sacrament, I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, saw a little red-winged bird, shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse, made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
For our closing words, we offer this beautiful poem by Rumi. I am the dust in the sunlight. I am the ball of the sun. I am the mist of morning, the breath of evening. I am the spark in the stone, the gleam of gold in the metal, the rose and the nightingale drunk with its fragrance. I am the chain of being, the circle of the spheres, the scale of creation, the rise and the fall. I am what is and is not. I am the soul in all. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our final hymn for today, number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me.
Please be seated. We end our worship as we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. Those we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Let's all give a farewell wave to our friends online. Our benediction is from the words of John Lennon. I believe in God, but not as one thing, not as an old man in the sky. I believe that what people call God is something in all of us. I believe that what Jesus and Mohammed and Buddha and all the rest said was right. It's just that the translations have gone wrong.
Got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're losing miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what your old pal said, girl. You got a friend in me. Got a friend in me.
You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me. You've got troubles? I've got them too. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for you. We stick together, we can see this through, 'cause you've got a friend in me.
Mother folks,
Might be a little bit smarter than I am.
bigger and stronger too.
Maybe, but none of them
Will ever love you the way I do. It's me and you, girl, as the years go by.
Our friendship will never die.
You're gonna see it's our destiny, 'cause you got a friend in me.
You got a friend in me.
You got a friend in me.